Good evening, council, staff, and distinguished guests. Welcome to our chambers. We seldom see so many people with us, so it's nice to see you all here tonight. So we'll start our welcome and the council commitment to the Wednesday, October 12th regular council meeting, and then I would ask council to stand as I read their commitment. Nope, wrong one. We are grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed on Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. May we ask that all in attendance and those who could not be here assist us in promoting good government. May our decisions as members of council be enlightened, and may we all be strengthened in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. May we be granted the wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all and to make good laws and wise decisions. Thank you all for attending. We go on to 3, which is the approval of the agenda. A mover and a seconder that the agenda of the regular council meeting of October 12th, 2022 be approved as presented. Councilor Rose, Councilor Cummings, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Anyone having a declaration of pecuniary interest may make it or make it at the appropriate time. Public meeting. There is a public meeting tonight under section 34 and 51 of the Planning Act to consider an application for a zoning bylaw amendment to the town zoning bylaw 2000-02 and to consider an application for draft plan of subdivision. The municipal address is 221 Fox Street, known as Queen's Court. To council, the purpose of this public meeting is to provide an opportunity for the public to make comments. The purpose of this public meeting is not to engage in a debate regarding the merits of the application, nor is it intended to be a question and answer session. There is an opportunity under matters for consideration to ask questions. To the public, this is your opportunity to speak, and we encourage you to do so. In accordance with the Planning Act, if a person does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make a written submission before the bylaw is passed, or an approval given, you will not be entitled to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and you may not be attended as a party to a hearing on an appeal to the OLT unless, in the opinion of the OLT, there are reasonable grounds to do so. And so I would start by asking our planner, Andrea Betty, to introduce the proponent.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, members of council and the public. I will begin by giving some background to this application before the council tonight. So we did receive 2 applications for a zoning bylaw amendment and for a draft plan of subdivision approval. These applications were declared complete on September 8th, and notice of tonight's public meeting was given on September 22nd. Notice of the public meeting was given to all landowners within 120 meters of the subject site, was given to required agencies, was also given to previous people or persons who had submitted a request to be updated or advised of the status of the application. It was also posted on the town's website. As part of the later agenda package, you do have some correspondence we've received prior to tonight's public meeting. There are 5 comments from the public. 2 we've received after the agenda was published, and so we'll providing those to council directly, as well as agency comments from the Severn Sound Environmental Association, Canada Post, Hydro One, and the Simcoe County District School Board. So I can confirm that notice was given and that those are the correspondence we've received to date. At this point, I will turn it over to Celeste Phillips. She's the planning consultant on behalf of the owner of the property, and she will give an introduction and overview of the request.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, town staff, and members of the public. I'm here, my name is Celeste Phillips, as Andrea mentioned. I'm a land use planning consultant, and I'm here speaking to you tonight about an application or applications that have been filed by Queens Court Developments Limited. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. It's so nice to be back in person. With me on the virtual basis this evening are representatives from Queens Court, the project architect, the environmental consultant that's been working on the project, and the project engineer. Next slide, please. The property location, I'm sure most of you know this, it's south of Broad Street, east of Fox Street, and west of Church Street, and the property is known municipally as 221 Fox Street. Many of you are familiar with the background of a previous application associated with this property. At that time, 117 residential dwellings were proposed over the entire property. That application was denied by council. So I'm here tonight to explain to you about a revised development application submitted for council's consideration, which is a total of 88 condominium townhouses with over half of the property designated as open space and to be conveyed to a land trust. Next slide, please. This is a closer view of the property. This is the aerial photo. The surrounding uses to the southwest and east are all residential. To the north, just off the top of this slide would be Broad Street, which runs east-west, and there are residential uses that are facing onto Broad Street. So the topography of the Queens Court land is generally falling from east to west. The property is 11.5 hectares in size, which is about 28.4 acres. And as Andrea has mentioned, there's applications filed for plan of subdivision and for rezoning. And as part of those requests going forward, if council was inclined to approve the subdivision and rezoning, there would then be a request for condominium approval. Go to the next slide. I just wanted to quickly go over the land use designations. This is an extract from the County of Simcoe official plan schedule, which shows that the property is designated settlements in the county official plan. Go to the next slide. This is an extract from the town of Penetang's official plan, and the property is designated neighborhood residential in your official plan. And then the next slide shows the zoning of the property as D, which means it's in the deferred category. And now I could go to the next slide, please, and we'll just talk about the proposed development blocks that are shown on the plan of subdivision. In yellow is the proposed residential block, occupying about 12.5 acres of the property, which is less than half of the property, or 45% of the land holding. In blue is the proposed stormwater management pond that consists of about 1 acre. And in green is the area that would not be developed. So this land would be set aside and zoned as green space. And the size of that green space area is about 47% of the property, about 13 acres. And the owners, Queens Court Developments Limited, would dedicate or donate that green space to a land trust or a conservation group to look after it over the long term. Careful attention has been given to concerns of area residents and the interest in preserving specific environmental features of that green space, a setback from the wetland area, and the inclusion of existing trails within the green space. Also shown on this slide is the proposed extension of Beck Boulevard, but only as far north as the dark gray area that you see on the slide, which represents the connection of Beck Boulevard to, westerly to Fox Street. So to be clear, this plan does not show any connection of Beck Boulevard to Broad Street. And on the next slide, you will see the proposed, next slide. Well, this is a slide showing the proposed portion of the property that would be developed. So to be clear, everything that's in the white area to the north would be set aside as green space, but the area that this slide really shows is the 88 residential condominium townhouses. You will see green space around those townhouses, and that would be the condominium element of the proposed development. With the exception of the extension of Beck Boulevard, all of the roads would be common element roadways, which means they would be managed by the condo corporation. This plan also shows that there is a minimum 10-meter buffer in green adjacent to the west, to the south, and to the east boundaries of the ownership to buffer this proposed development from existing residential developments. Next is the zoning bylaw extract. Please. Got it. So the request this evening is for a rezoning from the deferred zone to a residential R3 exception zone. So the expectation is that there will be site-specific standards required for the proposed 88 condominium townhouses. And I'm working with your town planning staff and your town planning consultants on two options of how to rezone these lands. The first option is to consider the condominium blocks as one lot and to set the setbacks associated with the entire parcel. The second is to zone the individual parcels of tied land, which is the individual townhouse portions, which may require specific standards for lot area, lot coverage, and setbacks. So the townhouses that are proposed, there are 60 with 6.7 meter frontages and 28 with 6.2 meter frontages, and the depths range from about 30 meters to 36 meters. The balance of the lands shown in green on this slide would be zoned in an open space category. And the next slide is the list of supporting documentation. There has been a number of technical documents and reports that were submitted as part of the rezoning application. They were filed with the town in late July, and they include archaeological, environmental, geotechnical, and hydrogeology reports. There are engineering reports, including functional servicing reports, stormwater management, and traffic. And there's also a planning justification report that addresses how the application before you conforms and is consistent with provincial land use policies, county policies, and your own municipal official plan. These reports are available for review by contacting the town planning department. And I will now turn the balance of the presentation to representatives of Queen's Court, who are going to speak about the public consultation leading up till tonight, and to the architects to speak about the architectural design. And your worship, following that, I'd be pleased to assist with any questions, and others are available as well if there's specific questions that I could direct to them. Thank you. And I'll turn it now to Queen's Court, please.
Hello. Ooh, excuse me. Hello, and thank you, Celeste. My name is Veronica Green, here with Brandon Donnelly as representatives of Queen's Court for this evening. For the past 3 years, we've had encouraging engagement with the community. We were introduced to the community's greater concerns through individuals of the local group Preserve and Protect Penetanguishene. Since approximately 2018, we've met with the individuals of that group over 15 times, both in person and over Zoom, and as well on the phone. There's some images below from a trip in the deep or depths of winter, both physically and in those winter months, as indicative by the great snow on those walking trails. And as well, last year we had 2 in-person community meetings, one at the town library. We hosted 2 sessions, one in the afternoon, one in the evening, which were well attended, approximately 30 guests at each. And then a second community engagement meeting, which the town had representatives at. And as well, all of our consultants were in attendance, in which we showed the draft master plan, which we then took all feedback to prioritize, and it's reflected in this new proposed master plan that constituted our submission for this submission. So it's been an incredible way to get to know both the community and as well the priorities for this area. We've certainly learned a lot and have enjoyed our time in Penicangwisheen. So I think I can hand it over to Brian now from Super Cool, who are the architects behind the design development of this plan. And he can speak a little bit more as to the evolution of the design from both concept to and through the feedback received. Thanks.
Thank you, Veronica. As she said, my name is Brian Melcher. I'm an architect at Supercool, and we're designers on the project. I don't know if it's possible to go full screen with the slides. If not, I'll just keep going. So just to preface, we haven't really gotten into the design of the individual buildings yet, but I just wanted to speak to some of our inspiration for the architectural vision for the site. And you can see in these precedents, some of the things that we were looking to do were use of natural materials, of having a light touch within the landscape, integrating with the existing topography of the site, and really taking advantage of the outdoor space. Like, we were quite inspired by the quality of the site and the natural features there. Next slide. In this slide, you can see we're also looking to provide a variety of building forms to create kind of a nice mix of outdoor spaces and a real balance of privacy and transparency throughout the site. Next slide. So I think some of the site organization Celeste has already sort of referenced, but just to kind of reiterate, there were the overall site organization strategies that we followed. The first was preserving half of the existing site as green space, which is the light green color at the top, preserving the existing trail networks as much as possible. So we've made every effort to keep most of those trails intact. Maintaining the 30-meter offset from the wetland area, which is the light blue around the wetland in the top of the image, as well as the 10-meter naturalized landscape buffer, which is represented here by the dark green at the south, kind of wrapping the south ends of the site. And then with the sort of remaining site area, we really divided that into two zones. So we have the upper townhouses that are perched on the ridge and interface with the existing topography there. And then on the left, you can see the lower townhouses that are organized around a ring road that comes off of the Beck Boulevard extension. And there's two different sizes of the townhouses, which are represented by the different colors. So the light gray are a little bit larger, and then the sort of pink colored ones at the lower area are a little bit smaller. Next slide. And this is really just showing an overall site section. I think the main thing here is really illustrating the amount that we're setting back from the adjacent neighborhoods. So the red line indicates our property line, and the blue shows that 10-meter naturalized landscape buffer. So you can see we're actually pulling a lot of the development more inboard into the site, more centralized and away from those adjacent properties. Next slide. And I believe this is the last slide, but this just speaks to how we're integrating the upper townhouse units within the topography. So you can see the buildings sit sort of embedded within the slope and actually act as a retaining wall within the hill. On the right, the upper unit, there's also, it's hard to see here, but the topography slopes backwards. So there's kind of a counter slope to provide drainage away from the building. And we're also, taking advantage of the fact that these sit at different elevations to really maximize the views looking west from these townhouses. And I believe that's the last slide.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. So with that, where is this? If there is anyone in the audience who wishes to make comments in opposition or support of the application based on land use planning issues relevant to the application, we would ask that you go to the podium and that you state your name and address. Thank you. So is there anyone who wishes to speak? I guess you can go after him, sir.
Good evening. My name's Graham Coulter. One of the members of Preserve and Protect Penetang. First of all, I'd like to share condolences for the police officers that we lost in South Simcoe today. Quite a tragedy for them and their families and other first responders. Moving on. So yeah, as they talked about in their presentation, we have met with Queen's Court quite a bit. Just a little background on how we got there. As you know, we the first plan we weren't too happy with, and there was a lot of sensitive areas where the development was going through. So yeah, we obviously weren't happy about that, but we thank the council members that voted for us to give us a chance for this second swing at things. And with the appeal, there is risks for the council to do that, and we appreciate that that was put forward. Next, we asked the developer if they would be interested in selling. They agreed $1.5 million, which is after the real estate market now, it seems like a lot less. But we weren't able to come up with that in one chunk, and fundraising through COVID would be quite difficult. So really the only way to stop it was to purchase it. So with this, we agreed that our next best course would be to sit down with the developer and maybe hash things out and have some sort of say in if they're willing to listen into what this development would look like and share our concerns on the property. It's been very stressful. We've had these meetings, we're very emotional towards it. It's caused rift within our group. It's just been very, very stressful for us. But you know, I may or may not have lost my cool a couple times. But anyways, we've come after all these visits. We've seen multiple different plans. They've gone back to the architect, back to design, come back. And we think this is the best compromise we'll be able to come across. What it does do is it protects, well, it's going to conserve some of the land for future citizens of this town to go for a walk through, hopefully, and enjoy what this town is, you know, what a lot of people view this town as, is trees. So that's great. We keep the northern feel here and not a city look. So that's a huge win for the town of Penetang. There's an existing trail that people have been using for years and years. So that will be protected under this plan. The sensitive areas like the wetland, even though it's full of ash trees, which isn't going to look too good with the ash borer coming through. But that will let nature take its course there and do what it has to do. It provides housing for the town, which seems to be a crunch these days. And some of the water control and filtration and with the trees and the soil and everything is kept intact. So hopefully they can find a conservancy or even the town willing to take on the property as you know, to be preserved and with a group of citizens or something along those lines. So what a lot of people didn't realize going into this is no. Well, it doesn't actually work that way. If every person in town doesn't want a development, every council member doesn't want a development, if it meets provincial policies and official plan, then it goes through anyways and they'll lose the appeal. So I think a lot of people don't realize that. So we've always had to keep that in mind. And also the 90-day decision is a pretty tight crunch for a whole subdivision. And town staff has had, I believe they've had some say in this too. So I think everybody's had brought some points forward to come out with this plan. Of course, I know I personally, I wouldn't want to see anything done with that land, but we can't win them all. But as far as this plan, it is a win for us, even though, no, it's a win for us going forward and saving that land. So we are happy about that. Well, it'll be sad to see the trees go, but we hope this will bring, we'll see what the future brings anyways. So just in the future, as things change in this province and things are tightening up, council and province, we need to look at going up rather than out into the forest. We need to go up with more buildings and change more planning towards that. We're finding now with baby boomers, not everybody needs a single family home. So thanks for your time and from our group.
Thank you, Graham. Sir.
My name is Eric May. I live in the Village Bay Moorings, 20 Grew Crescent. My property borders on the interior of the corner of Hunter Boulevard and Beck Extension. I've attended pretty much all of these meetings. One of the libraries I'll refer to because I wrote a letter to all you guys of the council after that meeting. And one little excerpt I just want to go over here because I was pointing out that from the original plan that we were looking at, that there had to be a second entrance onto Fox Street for safety reasons, and that be used as the primary entrance. And I'm pleased to see with the new plan that Beck Boulevard is now heading out to Fox Street. So that's one half of it. The other half of it, because my major concern where I'm located, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the residents of the Village of Bay Mooring by any stretch of the imagination, because there's a lot of varied comments or positions in there, but they can speak for themselves. My concern is traffic. And one of the concerns that I had mentioned is that the entrance through Beck Boulevard should remain blocked until, and the Fox Street entrance, which is there, be the primary access for the development of the project. And until all construction is finished in there, that the Beck Boulevard not extend through. So if it's possible to keep it blocked until the development is done, but the construction is done, I'd be all for it. I have no problem with the development as far as number of units or anything like that. It looks like this could be good. But from a traffic perspective, I think it's very important to control the traffic as much as possible as going through that back road. I don't know that Hunter Boulevard and the new Beck extension is really up for heavy duty equipment running in and out of there. So I leave that with you and Godspeed.
Thank you, Eric. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Hi, I'm Denise Steves. I live on Fox. It's funny you bring up that point about you want the road, the exit onto Fox, and I have a real issue with that. And again, that's safety. It's huge. That road is so busy, and none of the roads in this town support any dump truck or heavy load. They're all just demolished. I don't know if anybody goes up Broad Street. That's just a wreck, and I'm assuming that's all going to be fixed after. But the problem with just using Fox coming out, there's a park right across the street. It is busy in the summertime. So how are you going to make a safe exit or entrance onto Fox from this development? I don't see it. I think it's going to be a real challenge. I'd like to know, how we're going to do that and do that safely. I just don't think it's fair. And like, speaking of trails and all this kind of thing in the woods, they're not trails, like they're pathways, and they've been there and they're mucky and all this kind of thing. I mean, I would really love to see the town getting involved, like the Trails Committee, looking to see why are we not extending that road right through from one end to the other, have a nice path that people can bicycle through it and all that kind of thing. I mean, I think that's a real key consideration to make that land more useful for everybody in this town, not just for people that, back onto it. One thing that the developer doesn't talk about is price point. What is it? Who are the target markets? Be interested in that, because, they're not going to be cheap. And I'm sure they're going to be really super expensive to build. I don't know how they're going to build on those steep hills. I think that's going to be a real big challenge. And quite honestly, it's the same pictures we saw back when we had our last meeting over at the arena, the style of houses and all that. So there really hasn't been anything else that I see that it really showing us, what they look like or how they're even going to be, put in there. And then you have 88 units, and then, are there 2-car garages? Is it just a roadway? I mean, or is there a garage? I mean, I have no idea. So that's 88 times, let's say 88 times 2. Everybody has a car. And if you're married, you're gonna have 2 cars. So that number just doubles right there. So I don't know. I'm worried, and I understand people that live in the Bay Moorings, it's the same issue. But quite honestly, we live up here 12 months of the year. We're not here just pockets. So we see what's happening on these roadways all the time, whether it be Robert, Fox, what's the other speed demon area? There is no, people go how fast they want, except there's curves and they slow down for that. So I just think should be part of the discussion, is really, safety and what else we can use that land for, that maybe everybody else can enjoy it. It's important. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Denise. Anyone else who missed?
Evening, everyone. My name's Josh Warner. I live at 268 Church Street, close to, but not directly connected to, the 221 Fox Street property. My comments here are probably going to be a faint echo of Graham's, very similar. I was around for the last iteration of this subdivision and rezoning application, and along with many of the other residents, as you all know, I was actively involved in opposing it, and was thrilled that our town council at the time voted it down. Full disclosure, my primary concern has been and still is the preservation and protection of the woodland on this property, the many plants and animals that live and thrive there, and the quality and character I believe it provides our community and our town. And while it does make me sad to be here at another public meeting discussing the potential future destruction of any part of this beloved and valued forest, from my perspective, I see this new plan of subdivision as a win. Under this new plan, approximately half of the woodland, including the wetland at its heart, which is the most sensitive ecological feature, will be preserved and protected from development. And this is a direct result of our collective opposition to the last plan of subdivision, which would have decimated almost the entire property. But our opposition is only half the story. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the councillors of the time who listened to the voices of the residents and rejected the last plan. Thank you. You made the right decision. Indeed, it was a bad plan and a bad approach. And I'd also like to thank Queen's Court for choosing to change their approach, for engaging with the community, for withdrawing their appeal against the town's decision, for listening to residents' concerns and doing their best to incorporate these concerns into this new plan. Thank you. You could have reacted differently, but you chose a better way. In the end, well, I'd love to see this entire woodland preserved and protected. And there are aspects of this latest plan that I don't like. I think this plan is a reasonable compromise between everyone's interests that I've heard at least. And I'm personally very happy that half of this precious and valued woodland will remain undeveloped. That's the end of my prepared comments. I was struggling how to word this. I do just want to point out that in the documents that have been submitted with this plan, Queen's Court has committed to preserving half of this woodland, as we've all seen, and it's been repeated many times, but there is no solid plan in place. So I'd just like to stress that that's, in my opinion, very key to this being a good plan. And I'd like that plan to be solidified. Some assurances, I guess, some legally binding assurances that if, this does go forward, that is going to be put in place and, isn't going to be changed at some point in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Would like to speak or make comment, or if there is none, then Celeste, do you have any concluding remarks?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of quick comments. So the intent is to establish the principle of development. So I think the concerns that the last speaker expressed about some assurances, I think you'll see that in the zoning. So if the south part of the property is zoned residential and the north part is open space, then there would be no development permitted in the open space zoning. So I think that would satisfy your concern about the development. With respect to the style of houses and the price point, it's always difficult to know what the price point is because we're not at the point of actually putting a shovel in the ground yet. So the next steps in the process, if council was to approve the zoning, would be to proceed through a site plan process where at that time, the housing style, elevations, and details would be more defined than they are today. So what we have before you is a concept and a plan for what part of the property would be open space and what part would be residential. And we're hopeful that we can move forward with the plan as you see it. That's certainly the intent, and I've not seen any deviation from that to this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. Members of council, anyone has any questions through on regards to this, on the information that was presented? There are none. I thank you. So with no further comments, thank everyone for their attendance and participation. The council will consider the application and the results of the public meeting at a future meeting. Thank you. We wouldn't mind if you stayed. We'd have, for the whole meeting. Oh, yeah, sure. Goodbye. Okay, we now move on to 6, which is a proclamation of Small Business Week, October 16 to 22. Whereas the town of Penetanguishene celebrates our local small businesses and contributions they make to our local economy and community, and whereas small businesses positively contribute to the local economy by supplying jobs and generating tax revenue, and whereas small businesses are critical to the overall economic health of Ontario, and whereas the town of Penetanguishene supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost the economy, and preserve our neighborhoods. And whereas October 16th to the 22nd has been declared Small Business Week across the province of Ontario, now therefore the council of the town of Penetanguishene hereby proclaims October 16th to the 22nd, 2022 as Small Business Week in the town of Penetanguishene. Moving on to 7, deputations and presentations. And the first one we have is a delegation from Jennifer Morin Reynolds, Collective Accountability of Council Members, Bill 5. So Jennifer, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Lacroix, Deputy Mayor Dubois, and councillors, guests, and members of the public. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you this evening. So as His Worship said, my name is Jennifer Morin Reynolds, and I am here representing the Women of Simcoe Say No. We are a nonpartisan grassroots group formed to advocate that municipally elected officials be held accountable for harassment in the workplace, just as workers in any other environment in Ontario are. We are asking the municipalities of Simcoe County to support Bill 5, known as the Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act. And we are asking that this endorsement be communicated to the province before they return to legislature on October 25th, encouraging them to make second and third readings of this bill an urgent priority for the sake of all municipal staff and those working with municipal governments. I myself have lived in Simcoe County for some time, and for the last 9 years, I've lived in the city of Barrie, which was named by MPP Stephen Blaise as one of the 4 recent cases of abuse by councillors that motivated his private member's bill, Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act. Myself as an educator and as somebody who has also worked in municipal government, I have and continue to uphold strict safety measures, maintain ethical boundaries with staff and stakeholders, as well as be accountable for my own actions. So if I can do it, so can our elected officials. And may I add, perhaps they should be held to a higher level of moral exemplar. As a reminder, this is a nonpartisan bill. In the previous sitting of the provincial legislature, this bill, then Bill 10, passed second reading unanimously with full support of all parties. Unfortunately, Bill 10 died when the government called an election this spring. So MPP Blaise reintroduced it as Bill 5 on August 10th, incidentally the same day as the Strong Mayors Building Homes Act had its first reading, which received royal assent within 4 weeks. Bill 5 needs to be passed quickly. In its previous iteration, it's gone through an extensive consultation process to get to its current form. Municipalities need these basic tools to keep their staff and the public safe, tools that already exist in every other workplace in Ontario. Have the next slide, please. Thanks. Residents and city staff in Ottawa, Brampton, Barrie, and Mississauga have recently learned the hard way that the Occupational Health and Safety Act and the tools in it provides to protect people from workplace violence and harassment do not apply if the perpetrator is an elected official. In any other workplace, if someone was found to have been violent or abusive to another person, there would be measures available to ensure that no further harm would be caused to their victim or anyone else in the workplace, up to and including removing the perpetrator from their position. If the perpetrator is an elected official, however, the strongest remedy currently available under the Municipal Act is that the Integrity Commissioner can suspend them for 90 days without pay. After that, they are free to return to the workplace. And their victim or victims must make the decision of whether they can afford to leave a workplace that cannot keep them safe, or if they must stay and face their abuser every day until the end of council term, which is about to be November 2026. Because, as I'm sure you know, we are about to have a municipal election, which means that unless Bill 5 is passed, our incoming elected officials know that they will have 4 years of carte blanche to behave as they wish, just so long as they don't get criminally convicted. Fortunately, most mayors and councillors would likely not take advantage of such freedoms, but that possibility is still there, and we need to stop that possibility. We need Bill 5 passed yesterday. Next slide, please. As soon as Bill 5 is passed, each municipality's code of conduct would include a requirement for councillors and members of local boards to comply with workplace violence and harassment policies. It would also permit municipalities and local boards to direct the Integrity Commissioner to apply to the court to vacate a member's seat if it is determined that the member has contravened these violence and harassment policies. Also, should a member be removed from office in this way, there would be restrictions on their running in subsequent elections or being reappointed to the council or local board. In much the same way as a candidate who fails to file a financial statement for their election campaign is currently prevented from running in subsequent elections. Let that sink in. Under current legislation, someone who doesn't file a campaign financial report is prevented from running in the next election. But an incumbent who is found to have assaulted a staff member, a colleague, or a member of the public has no such restrictions and is free to run again. This makes no sense. As it stands now, the respondents from Brampton and Mississauga are running for council again, and the respondent from the Barrie case is running for mayor. Can you imagine what is going through the minds of municipal staff right now as they contemplate the next 4 years without Bill 5? Next slide, please. Okay. Oh. Yep, that's fine. Okay. The Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act will help keep municipal workplaces safe. This accountability through a transparent and fair process with multiple layers of decision makers should already exist, but it doesn't. Our ask of you today is for absolutely $0, zero partisanship, and very little of your time. We are asking you to show your care for your own staff, your colleagues, and to the public, and that you're willing to make Town Hall a safe place for all people, from all people. We are asking your council to pass a motion to endorse Bill 5 and to write a letter of support circulated to your MPP Jill Dunlop, Premier Doug Ford, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing Steve Clark, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the MPP for Orleans Stephen Blais, and the Warden of Simcoe County. I am happy to report that the municipalities of Barrie, Springwater, Wasaga Beach, Ottawa, Woodstock, Clearwater, New Tecumseh, Bradford, Orillia, and Collingwood each passed such a motion this month. And our group has deputations scheduled to other municipalities across Ontario. Please join them and help protect everyone working for and within municipal governments across Ontario. Thank you so much for your time.
Members of council, do anyone have questions through to Jennifer? No, thank you, Jennifer, and I'm sure our clerk will look into all of this for us and probably bring something forward.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on that, I believe that the request specifically was relatively time sensitive in that it was to go before October 25th, I think was the date, being at this is our last meeting until November 9th. If there's a member of council that's looking to move something to support, I can certainly assist. But I would look for that direction from council.
I'm sure that we will find somebody to move it and second it, and I'm sure we're probably going to have all of council in favor. So moved by Councillor Levy, seconded by Councillor Saint-Amand, that we support this, and approval from council, all in favor. Carried. Okay, moving on to a presentation from Cameron Epp and Christy Lee from the Severn Sound Environment Association RE B City Canada Initiative. Now, is this one being done by Zoom? Okay, if I would think that it's probably Cameron. If you would turn your camera on, please, Cameron. Now we've got it. Thanks. Oh.
We're just having a little trouble getting the slideshow up. So Cameron, if you don't mind, just one moment. Okay, I think we're ready now.
We're good to go.
Good evening, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, members of the council, staff, along with members of the audience. My name is Cameron Epp, and I am the Watershed Resilience Coordinator at Severn Sound Environmental Association. And this presentation will cover the B-City program, the benefits of getting involved, and how to get involved if you choose to. Next slide, please. As you're all aware, SSCA is a watershed-based agency that operates in 8 member municipalities, which fall within our watershed boundary, shown here on the map. SSCA is a joint municipal service board developed by member municipalities to provide environmental services and expertise, including those related to habitat and biodiversity. Next slide, please. B-City Canada is a charitable organization that aims to work with and inspire municipalities as well as other organizations to take action to help protect pollinators. Those who join the B-City Canada program will receive a B-City designation. B-City Canada also provides educational material to the public about the importance of pollinators and how to protect them. Local municipalities in our area that have B-City designations already include the townships of Tiny, Georgian Bay, and Severn, as well as the town of Midland and the county of Simcoe. Next slide, please. Threats to pollinator populations today include, but are not limited to, pesticide use, human activities such as mowing, habitat loss, and invasive species. Like with most at-risk plant and wildlife species, habitat loss is one of the largest contributing factors to pollinator population declines. With pollution and urban development, reducing the amount of area that pollinators have to find food and reproduce in every year. B-City Canada was created to help address these challenges faced by pollinators. Next slide, please. Joining the B-City Canada program and getting a B-City designation is a great way to build on prior municipal or private-led pollinator action and get recognition for it. One of the most effective ways to help pollinators locally is to create reduced mow or no-mow areas on municipal land. This also comes with extra benefits to the municipality. Adopting a reduced or no-mow practice can save the municipality money, mechanical wear and tear, and staff time spent that would be spent regularly mowing these park areas. Areas that are not mown or are turned into pollinator gardens will also provide many other environmental benefits, such as filtering stormwater runoff, reducing pollution and erosion, and attracting more wildlife to local areas. And then finally, a key benefit to joining the program is that municipal staff will have access to experts at SSCA and B-City Canada to help with pollinator initiatives. Next slide, please. The B-City Canada program consists of 3 commitments that municipalities must take action to fulfill in order to become a B-City. Creating pollinator habitat, which can be done in many ways, but the most common methods are to create no-mow areas on municipal parks and allow them to become naturalized, or to build pollinator-friendly gardens using native plants. Celebrating pollinators during Pollinator Week or other times of the year. Examples of this includes posting on social media to bring awareness to pollinator issues, encouraging residents to use citizen science platforms to report pollinator sightings, and promoting public workshops that support pollinators. And the final commitment, community and stakeholder education, has many different and unique ways for each municipality to meet this commitment. For municipal partners that are part of the Sustainable Severn Sound Special Project, SSCA can provide assistance and advice with any of these B-City Canada program commitments. Next slide, please. The application process is pretty simple. The first step is to just fill out the online application form. And then second step is to download the resolution form, make any of the necessary changes, and then have it signed by the appropriate municipal official, and then submit the resolution and application form together. The final step is then to pay the B City Canada membership fees, which are actually free for the first year. So you only have to start paying them during your second year as a B City. These fees are calculated based on the population size of each municipality. So for municipalities with populations between 10,000 and 25,000 residents, the membership fees are only $200 annually. And then once your application has been approved, you will receive your B City declaration certificate. Next slide, please. So in summary, pollinators are struggling due to loss of habitat, pesticides, and many other reasons. It may take some time to achieve the level of public interest and support desired with this with new programs, but this is easily overcome with public education. The pollinator habitat itself also takes some time to mature, and some maintenance of the pollinator sites will likely be needed after they're initially built. And there's informative resources available for you to help provide information to the public. Next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Myself and my colleague are happy to answer any questions that you now may have.
Members of council, do we have any questions through to Deputy Mayor?
I don't have a question, Your Worship, but certainly would like to thank Cameron for making this presentation this evening. And although I won't be here, I would like to put it on the table now that maybe we can do a motion before this council is over. If not, certainly to make sure that the new council certainly embraces this. I think it's a great idea. It's not expensive, and I do think we have a gardening club in our community that certainly would embrace this and help bring it forward. So,
Madam Clerk, comment?
notice of motion, yeah.
No.
Maybe Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Just based on the fact I'm trying to conjure our CAO, who's not here, but we are texting, and I think what would probably be the most ideal, because I think we have our Director of Public Works and our Director of Recreation here. There will be some implications about this. So in terms of passing a motion to have staff do a report, I think we could simply just add it to the committee of the whole items in either T&E or RCS. I'll let them RCS. Okay, it would be a Sherry thing. So we could add it there. And I think that is something that the next term of council will see. And certainly it'll be up to them whether they decide to move forward with it. But it will take some work of staff to put all the information together and come up with a good proposal.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Great idea.
Thank you very much, Cameron, for the presentation. Very interesting, and I'm sure we probably will be looking at this down the road.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, moving on to 8, adoption of minutes not already confirmed, that the following minutes of council meetings be confirmed and adopted as circulated. Council September 14, 2022, Special Council September 14, 2022, and Special Council September 28, 2022. Mover and the seconder, Councillor Mayette, Councillor Cummings, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. Consent agenda, we have none. Matters for consideration. A, lift part lot control for Champlain Shores, file number Pen Sub 2019-01 PL 2244, that a bylaw be passed to lift part lot control for the property municipally known as 200 and 176 Fox Street, blocks 1, 2, 3, and 5 on Plan 51M-1234. Comments, questions, or concerns? There being none, mover, Councillor LaRose and Councillor Buddebunker, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. B, Strong Mayors Building Homes Act 2022, CIO-2022-11. Be it resolved that council supports the need for action on the housing crisis and more specifically the attainable housing crisis, but feels strongly that the strong mayor powers will not assist in building homes faster and will undermine the democratic process. And that a letter be sent to the Premier of Ontario and the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing outlining that these powers are inappropriate and not required and cannot be linked to building homes faster, and that comments be provided to the draft regulations released outlining the position provided in the body of report CIO-2022-11. Questions, concerns, or comments? Mover and the seconder, Councillor Saint-Amand and Deputy Mayor, all in favor. And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to C, Plan of Subdivision Application Pen Sub 2022-01 and Zoning Bylaw Amendment File Number ZA4/2022 for 221 Fox Street, Queens Court Development Limited, background to public meeting PL 2022-49. That this meeting be received for discussion and that staff be directed to prepare a report for a future committee of the whole meeting to address any comments received at the public meeting. Mover and the seconder, Councillor Cummings and Councillor Buddeboncoeur, all in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to presentation, consideration of report, Committee of the Whole. Committee of the Whole, September 14, 2022. That the recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to the Recreation and Community Services section be approved. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Cummings, moved by Deputy Mayor. Seconder, any concerns, questions? None? All in favor? And that is carried. That the recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to the Planning and Development Service sections be approved. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Levy and Councillor Buddeboncoeur as a seconder. Questions, concerns, comments? All in favor? That the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to Transportation Environmental Service section be approved. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Clou and Councillor LaRose. Questions, concerns? All in favor? And finally, that the recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to the Finance and Corporate Services section be approved. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Saint-Amand, Councillor Mayat. Questions, concerns? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Presentations and considerations of reports, special committees, there are none. Motions of which notice has been previously given, there are none. Notices of motion, there are none. A consideration of bylaws. Bylaws being 2022-49 being a bylaw to establish a procurement policy for the corporation of the town of Penetanguishene and to repeal bylaw 2018-12. 2022-50 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a loan from the HEC Reserve Fund for funding required for the purchase of 51 Dunlop Street property. 2022-51 being a bylaw to exempt certain lands from part lot control 176 and 200 Fox Street. That the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene introduces the following bylaws: 2022-49, 2022-50, and 2022-51. Bylaws be read a first time and deemed to be read a second and third time and carried. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Levy and Councillor Rose, all in favor. And that is carried. Thank you. Question period from media and the public. We have none. So under announcements, I have two to begin with, and one is something that actually our Sarah put out today in regards to the police that were killed in south of Innisfil. And it reads that the town of Penetanguishene has lowered its flags to honor the tragic loss of the two police officers in the town of Innisfil. And so on behalf of my council colleagues, staff and residents of our town, I offer my sincere condolences to the officers, families, friends, and their South Simcoe police family. And the second one that I have is announcement of something that I just received today from GBGH, is that our longtime Vice President of Human Resources at GBGH, Bill Whitaker, will be resigning and retiring at the end of December 2022. And GBGH announces today that Angela Wiggins will be the new VP of Human Resources effective November 7th, 2022. I'm sure many of you probably knew Bill. He was almost a relic at that GBGH. Been there for so many years. I don't know how many, over 30. So, well, you know, when you're around a long time, you can become a relic. Yeah.
You should know.
Absolutely. Any other announcements? None? So confirmation bylaw 2022-52, that the confirmation bylaw 2022-52 be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. Mover and seconder. Councillor Mayette and Deputy Mayor. All in favor? And Councillor Cummings, we are adjourned. Oh, yeah. Oh, Bill, yeah. It's a good thing that I know him real well. A 5-minute break, Sarah? Okay, go. Okay, council, we will call the committee of the whole meeting to order at whatever. Approval of the agenda, committee of the whole agenda, recommended action that the committee of the whole agenda for October 12, 2022 be presented or approved as presented. Mover and a seconder, Councillor LaRose, Councillor Sinema, all in favor. Okay, declaration of pecuniary interest, if you so have, declare at the appropriate time. Present delegations, all sections, we have none. Council information package, the council information package of September 21, 2022, and October 5 of 2022. Does anyone wish to pull anything from the SIP? Nope. So recommended action that the council information package having been given due consideration be received for information. A mover and a seconder, Councilor Rose, Councilor Cummings, all in favor. And that is carried. And with that, we move to 6, which is Transportation Environmental Services, and I pass it on to Councillor Klug.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a short agenda tonight. Consent agenda, we have nothing. We have one item under matters for consideration. That's the salt management plan. It's an update for 2022. Report RDS 2022-17. The recommended action is that the 2022 salt management plan be adopted. Can we have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Cummings, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any comments or questions? We have our director here. Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And right on to our referrals. There are still 3 items here. The recommended action is that the Transportation and Environmental Services section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. We have the 2022 budget request for roadwork at Robert Street East in Dufferin, the stormwater management best practices and engineering standards, and the Robert Street crossings at Owen and Scott Street. Any comments or additions, removals? I see none. I didn't get a mover and a seconder. Sorry. Can we have a move by Councillor St. Amand, seconded Councillor Levy? I saw no comments, so all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And question period from media and public. And there are none. So back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Klug. We move on now to section 7, Recreation and Community Services, and I pass it on to Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have 5 items on our consent agenda this evening. The Curling Club Board Minutes for September 13th, 17th, and 30th. The Museum and Heritage Committee meeting minutes, June 9th. The Trails Committee meeting minutes, May 31st. The ice rates, the RC 2022-20, and the Penetanguishene Public Library report of September 2022. The recommended action here is that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. Need a mover? Councillor Sanama, seconded Councillor Levy. Any questions? Seeing none, a call for the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have one matter for consideration this evening, and it's the Ontario Watercross Racing Association event summary and the 2023 event, RCS 2022-19. Recommended action here is that this report be received for information and that the beach, basketball court, and a section of the field adjacent to the parking lot at the end of Scott Street in Rotary Champlain Wendat Park, as outlined in Attachment 1, be closed to the public from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on a consecutive Saturday, Sunday in 2023 for an Ontario Watercross Racing Association event, and that the municipal parking lot at the corner of Water Street and Scott Street be closed to the public for the duration of that event. And further, that the Ontario Watercross Racing Association be exempt from the excessive noise bylaw through submission of the noise exemption request. Now, since this was published, we have a date for next year. It's September 9th and the 10th. September 9th and 10th for next year. If there's any questions or concerns, the director's here. She can speak on the event this year and the new one. Councillor Levy.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. I just want to voice my dislike for this event. It's very noisy. I don't think the town gets much value out of it. And I get endless complaints when you're sitting on your deck up on Church Street, close to Waypoint, and you hear it and you hear it and you can't sit on your deck. Imagine living on Water Street. I can't. Anyway, I've had my say. I know I'm in the minority, but I have to put my penny and a half in.
Thank you, Councillor Levy. This clerk has something to say.
I just was looking for clarification regarding the motion based on the event date. Did you want me to update the motion to reflect that?
If that's possible.
Yeah,
you can.
absolutely. No problem.
Okay. Just received the information. Councillor Clue?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm going to join Councillor Levy in the minority. I found this event really disruptive. I probably heard more complaints about this event than I have about anything else for the last 4 years, actually. I took a walk through town. That was the weekend we lost power, if everyone recalls. So that might have shut things down a little bit earlier. But I walked from my house right through town, downtown. Downtown was a ghost town, but the whole town was loud. I'm concerned about the environmental implications, obviously. So this one's a no for me. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Any further questions, concerns? Councillor Vadabonker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. I had a question with respect to the environmental component of it. I did hear some residents talk about the noise, but I just don't understand clearly, and it wasn't really covered in the report, the modifications that are done to the snowmobiles to ensure that any impact on the environment is minimized. I was just curious if the director has any thoughts on that, because these are modified snowmobiles that, as I understand, do a loop on the water and then come back. I need to understand what modifications have been made. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vadabonker, for the question. I'm not sure that I'm informed enough to speak to the exact modifications of the snowmobiles. And it was in the first report to approve this year's event, but not this one. So a good catch that was missed. But in the first report for this year's event, it was noted that the fuel is equipped with a one-way valve, so the fuel only goes one way. And also that if the racers are concerned at all with contaminated fuel, that water got in the fuel, that there are disposal bins for dealing with disposing of gas appropriately in the pits. So if they want to drain their system and put fresh gas in, that they can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. I didn't hear many complaints whatsoever in regards to that event. As a matter of fact, I attended it on the Sunday. A huge crowd brought a lot of people into the community. It's a daytime event. The noise is not at night, and it's not early in the morning. The only complaints that I received through the whole process was the lack of food vendors for the event, and I think that they know that and realize that themselves and are prepared to address that. And the other one was the parking issue on Scott Street, where they were parking on both sides of the street, making traffic almost impossible to get through, and they are aware of that as well, from what I am told. So for me, it's an event. It's something that is for the municipality, brings people into the municipality. I had a lot of noise the other night, fireworks at 12 o'clock at night. So, you know, what do you do with that kind of noise?
Thank you, Your Worship. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Sanama?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say I'm similar to the mayor in that the only comments I've had have actually been positive, that it was a good event for the people that attended it. I acknowledge the noise, there's no doubt about it, but it is a 2-day event, and if it can get people to come into the town and to see what's happening, I think it's a great thing to have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or concerns? I just have a couple of comments. I did have a complaint from an elderly lady who said, where were the motocross bikes racing? And how come we didn't get invited? So like, that's the only complaint I heard. And this was from an elderly lady and she wanted to be a part of it. So I think it's important to note that if we are trying to be a tourist town, we have to have something to attract tourists. And this is an event that attracts a lot of tourists. And I think it was worth running. The group was very, very good. They left a $500 deposit and there was $500 that they paid for the event. And the $500 was for cleanup afterwards. And there was no cleanup afterwards. The group did it themselves. But not only did they clean it up, they gave the $500 back to the town. So they donated it back. So I think this is a good group. It's a 2-day event, yes, and it's noisy. And I was sitting in Midland and heard it. But that's something that we have to give up if we want to attract tourists to our town. So seeing that, I have not got a motion yet. So I need a motion for this to receive this report. Councillor Mayette, second. Councillor LaRose, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Referrals to upcoming agendas, that the Recreation and Community Services section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to the upcoming agenda and staff. Got a mover and a seconder first. Moved by Deputy Mayor Dubo, second by Councillor Sanama. And we do have one addition. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I'd like to add the request to become a B community, or, well, I know the
city.
word city and we're not a city, we're a town, but Madam Clerk, you can use the proper language for us. I don't have that right in front of me.
Thank you, yeah, Madam Chair, or sorry, thank you, Your Worship. And it actually is B City Canada. I think it's an actual name brand versus us being a B City. I think it's their business name. So we'll use that and I will add that to the referral items.
So then our key deliverables is for our staff to create a report regarding joining the B City Canada.
Yeah.
Okay, and when are we expecting this to happen? Q1?
As with other additions to the referral items list, usually what we do is we add them here. We don't commit to a time. Our CAO will have a conversation with the director, figure out what would be the time, and then we usually will include that on the next agenda to show. But certainly members of council can provide requests through to the CAO.
Okay, thank you. Any other additions or deletions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Questions from the media and the public? We have none. Back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. We move on to Section 8, Planning and Community Development Services, and I pass it on to Councillor Levy.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. We'll start, of course, with the consent agenda. And we have the Economic Advisory Committee meeting minutes, July 4th, August 24th, and September 12th. We have Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes, August 22nd. And we have the Bylaw monthly activity report, September 2022. And the third quarter Planning and Community Development Department update. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this? Councillor Vadabancourt, Councillor Saint-Amant. Anybody want to pull any of those or further discuss them? Councillor Vadabancourt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not to pull anything, but just a comment on the Economic Development Committee meeting, the special meeting on September 12th, and the market gap analysis that was presented at that meeting. I thought that the minutes were very interesting in terms of what was covered there, and I look forward to seeing further work being done on those outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vadabancourt. So we've had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? And carried. Okay, moving on to matters for consideration. Heritage Tax Rebate Program Review, PL 2022-47. Recommended action that the revised municipal heritage tax rebate program guidelines be approved and that council repeal and replace bylaw 2011-92 with the revised municipal heritage tax rebate program in accordance with staff report PL 2022-47. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this? Councillor Vadeboincourt, Councillor Mayette. Any questions on this report or clarifications needed? Seeing none, all those in favor? And carried. And we have Heritage Street Name Policy Update, PL 2022-48. Recommended action that council approve the Heritage Street Name Policy Plan 2/2022 to set out guiding principles for the naming of streets in the town of Penetanguishene, including the process for adding street names to the approved list, to set a priority for approving new street names, assigning street names to new developments, and renaming an existing street. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Clue and Councillor LaRose. Any questions? Clarifications required? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And look at us, we're at referrals. We have 3 items on the referral list. The Planning and Community Development Service section endorses the following additional and existing referrals for upcoming agendas and staff. Future agenda items are below drive road options, site plan control bylaw review, and the municipal accommodation tax known as MAT. And do I have a mover and a seconder for these? Councillor LaRose, Councillor Clue, and does anyone want to add or need more clarification or delete any? Seeing none, all in favor and carried. There are no media here or public, so I will hand it back to Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Levy. Moving on to section 9, Finance and Corporate Services, and I pass it on to Councillor Sinema.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Under our consent agenda, we have the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee meeting minutes of August the 29th, 2022, the Police Services Board meeting minutes of June the 6th, 2022, and the 2022 third quarter financial summary, finance report 2022-24, and the AMO conference, the ministry delegation follow-up, CEO report 2022-10. If I could have a mover and a seconder to Councillor Cummings, Deputy Mayor Dubo, sorry. I know, it's been a long day. I change your name, change your name. All right. Any discussion, any clarification?
Councillor Cummings, pardon me, Madam Chair, if you would. Councillor Cummings, do I understand that you are going to report something in vis-a-vis the Police Services Board, the letter that was sent?
I am.
Oh,
It's coming up later.
okay.
It's up on the verbal
It's
update
coming
after.
up on the
Okay.
verbal update afterwards, yes. So thank you. Thank you very much for bringing that forward. Yes, call for the vote. Thank you. All those in favor? Very good. Thank you. Moving on to the matters for consideration. The verbal update from the Chair of the Police Services Board. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As council will recall, at our September meeting, the question was raised in regard to the letter that the town received from a resident on MacArthur Drive regarding short-term rentals. Council requested that the incident that was outlined in the letter be discussed at the next Police Services Board meeting and a report come back to the council. So this is the report. Without giving away a lot of details, which I can't anyway, the Police Services Board met on the 27th of September and the incident was discussed. Detachment Commander Banks reminded the board and the residents who reported this incident to the OPP, that they can always refer back to the detachment to find out what's going on. So if they were to call the non-emergency number, they can actually find out what's going on with that particular case. They could have an occurrence number, or they can just ask about the incident itself. The mayor and the CAO did meet with the residents on MacArthur Drive a few weeks ago, and they were also notified that they could get an update anytime on the incident, and they were encouraged to do so. So that was a very productive meeting, I hear, Your Worship. In addition to that, our town bylaw enforcement department and the OPP have committed to expanding their communications with each other, and they will meet to discuss further opportunities to better align the enforcement activities around short-term rentals. So that's what happened out of that meeting.
Thank you very much for that update. Item number 2, matters for consideration, is the 2023 draft meeting calendar for council and the committee of the whole. It's report CL 2022-09. And the recommended action is that the draft 2023 council and committee of the whole meeting schedule included with this report be approved as presented. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Cummings, Councillor Mayotte. Any discussion? Anybody? Okay. All those in favor? Okay, an appointment of an auditor, finance 2022-25. The recommended action that Baker Tilly Canada be appointed as the town's auditor for a 5-year term with a possible extension of an additional 1 year, and that the clerk be directed to bring forward the necessary bylaw required for council approval. Mover, Councillor Mayotte. Seconder, Councillor LaRose. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Very good, thank you. Referrals. The referrals that we have are the OPP costing, police costs, CNCC recovery, that is an ongoing, and the Mayor's Strong Homes Act. We did have the update, and we are moving forward with that, but it hasn't been fully passed, so we'll leave it on for now. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Mayotte, thank you. Councillor LaRose. All those in favor? Thank you very much. No questions from the media or the public? Nope. Very good. Back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Council Can. Thank you, staff. With that, we are adjourned.